Thanks for staying with us. You're watching WION World is One, and this is Speed News. Let's start with all the headlines we're tracking for you at this hour. US President Donald Trump has said he does not care whether Iran returns to negotiations with the United States following failed talks in Pakistan. Speaking to reporters at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland after returning from Florida. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says Tehran was inches away from finalizing a deal with the United States during high-level talks in Islamabad before negotiations collapsed. He blamed what he called US maximalist demands, shifting goalposts and a blockade for derailing the agreement. In a post on X, Araghchi said Iran had engaged in the most intensive talks with Washington in nearly 5 decades, in good faith aiming to end the war, but accused the US of undermining the process at the final stage. US Central Command says it will start enforcing a maritime blockade on traffic to and from Iranian ports at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Well, this comes after Donald Trump announced plans for the US Navy to block the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's Navy Chief Shahram Irani has dismissed US President Donald Trump's threat to blockade the Strait of Hormuz as ridiculous and laughable following failed talks between Tehran and Washington. Speaking on state media television, he said Iranian naval forces are closely tracking and supervising all movements of US military forces across the region. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited southern Lebanon, meeting Israeli troops near the border. Wearing a flak vest, he said Israeli forces have eliminated the threat of an invasion by Hezbollah militants, while stressing that military operations are still ongoing. In a video released by his office, Netanyahu said the war continues, including inside a designated security zone in Lebanon. Netanyahu was accompanied by Defense Minister Israel Katz. Hungary's longtime nationalist leader Viktor Orban has conceded defeat after 16 years in power, as conservative challenger Peter Magyar claimed a decisive parliamentary victory. Magyar pledged to realign Hungary with the EU and NATO following years of strained ties. With about 67% of votes counted, his party is projected to win 137 of 199 seats, more than a two-thirds of majority. Voters in Peru will have to wait until at least Monday for the results of Sunday's presidential election after logistical problems disrupted the process. Thousands of voters at home and abroad were reportedly unable to cast ballots, prompting electoral authorities to extend voting for 63,300 residents in Lima, as well as Peruvian voters in Orlando and Patterson in the United States. Officials announced the extension after counting began Sunday evening. Voting is mandatory in Peru for citizens aged 18 to 70, with fines of up to $32 for those who fail to participate. A short truce between Russia and Ukraine to mark Orthodox Easter has formally expired after 32 hours, with both sides accusing each other of thousands of violations. The ceasefire, ordered by Russian President Vladimir Putin and earlier proposed by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, saw only a limited lull in fighting. While Russian air raids briefly eased, clashes continued along much of the 1,200-kilometer front line, echoing similar fragile truces seen in the past. US President Donald Trump has launched a scathing attack on Pope Leo, calling him weak on crime and terrible for foreign policy. The comments come just a day after the Pope made a plea for peace in West Asia. Speaking to reporters at Joint Base Andrews, Trump said that the Pope is a very liberal person who doesn't believe in stopping crime. He further accused the pontiff of toying with a country that wants a nuclear weapon. US Congressman Eric Swalwell has suspended his campaign for California governor, acknowledging what he called mistakes in judgment amid sexual misconduct allegations. In a post on X, he apologized to his family, staff and supporters while vowing to fight what he described as serious false allegations. The move follows mounting scrutiny after multiple women accused him of misconduct, including claims of sexual assault reported by major US media outlets. Authorities in Indonesia are rolling out preventive measures to curb land and forest fires and protect food supplies as the El Nino climate pattern is expected to return in the second half of 2026. The Meteorology, Climatology and Geophysics Agency, known as BMKG, is monitoring Pacific Ocean conditions for early signs of development. Its latest assessment indicates up to 83% chance of a weak to moderate El Nino emerging mid-year, raising concerns over a prolonged dry season and heightened fire risk. Nigerian military jets have reportedly struck a village market in the country's northeast while targeting Islamist militants, with at least 200 civilians feared dead. This incident occurred in Yobe state near the border with Borno, an area at the heart of a long-running insurgency. Local officials and residents say civilians were caught in the strike, though authorities have previously disputed such claims. The region has seen years of violence that has killed thousands and displaced millions. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has begun his fourth visit to China in as many years, underscoring a foreign policy approach that has drawn criticism from US President Donald Trump. Spain has pushed for stronger trade ties with China and views it as a strategic partner. This, however, is in contrast to Washington's adversarial stance. The visit highlights tensions between Madrid and Washington, including disputes over defense spending, NATO cooperation and Spain's refusal to grant landing rights for US forces during operations linked to the Iran conflict. Cyclone Vaianu has made landfall on New Zealand's North Island, bringing destructive winds, heavy rain and severe flooding. The storm crossed near the Makatu Peninsula with gusts exceeding 130 kilometers per hour, forcing hundreds of evacuations and causing widespread power outages. Weather agency Met Service described Vaianu as a life-threatening system. Authorities have declared emergencies in several regions and issued red-level wind warnings, reserved for the most extreme weather conditions. Delhi is seeing a steady rise in temperatures as the region moves out of relatively mild morning conditions. Meteorological forecasts suggest a continued warming trend through the week, with temperatures likely reaching 38 degrees Celsius by April 14th and approaching 40 degrees Celsius by April 17th. Clear skies and strong sunshine are expected to intensify the heat, making afternoons increasingly harsh and signaling the early onset of summer-like conditions across Delhi. Thailand is facing intense Songkran heat, worsening dust pollution and the threat of summer storms, with the meteorological department warning that temperatures could climb as high as 42 degrees Celsius in some areas. In its 24-hour forecast issued, the department said Upper Thailand would generally remain hot, with some places experiencing extremely hot conditions and hazy skies during the day. The weather pattern is being driven by a heat-induced low-pressure system covering Upper Thailand. UK financial regulators have held urgent talks with cyber security agencies and major banks over risks linked to a new AI model. The Bank of England, Financial Conduct Authority and HM Treasury are assessing potential threats to critical IT systems. The concerns are linked to Anthropic's latest model, Cloud Mythos Preview, which has flagged major software vulnerabilities. Officials are working with the National Cybersecurity Centre to examine risks across banking and financial infrastructure. Major banks, insurers and exchanges are expected to be briefed on the model's cyber risk potential in the coming weeks. AI industry leaders are urging workers to adapt to AI-driven work, even as concerns grow over job losses. At the HumanX conference in San Francisco, executives said employees must learn to work with AI tools while building skills like coding, critical thinking, and communication. Companies are increasingly linking layoffs to AI adoption, with firms like Salesforce saying AI now handles around 50% of customer support tasks. Tech leaders said AI is automating routine work, reducing the need for entry-level roles across companies. However, some experts warn that firms may be using AI as a reason to justify job cuts rather than it being the only cause. Data shows entry-level hiring in tech has fallen sharply as basic tasks are increasingly handled by AI systems. US officials have held a high-level meeting with bank executives to discuss cyber risks and the use of a new AI model. According to a Bloomberg report, US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Fed Chair Jerome Powell urged banks to use Anthropic's Mythos model to detect security vulnerabilities. Major banks including JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, Bank of America and Morgan Stanley are reportedly testing the AI model. Anthropic has announced limited access to the model, citing its ability to identify serious security flaws. Reports say the AI is capable of detecting vulnerabilities even without being specifically trained for cybersecurity tasks. The collapse of US-Iran peace talks has shaken global markets, pushing oil prices up sharply and lifting the dollar. US stock futures and major Asian markets slipped amid rising uncertainty. A US blockade on Iranian oil exports has intensified fears of supply disruptions through the Strait of Hormuz. Investors are now bracing for possible military escalation and renewed inflation pressure, which could prompt central banks to raise interest rates. Markets in Asia are also factoring in that governments across the region are now taking a longer-term approach to energy security. They are not expecting this conflict to turn itself around anytime soon, or even if it does, that there will be guaranteed oil and gas shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. This is what we have to see and watch. Oil prices jumped over 7% to cross $100 a barrel as the US prepared to enforce a naval blockade on Iran, raising fears of major supply disruptions. The move follows failed peace talks and threatens up to 2 million barrels per day of Iranian oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz. Markets are on edge as tensions escalate, with warnings from Iran of strong retaliation. Analysts say the blockade could tighten global supply and keep oil prices elevated in the near term. Gold prices dropped over 2% as inflation concerns intensified following the collapse of US-Iran peace talks. The planned US blockade of the Strait of Hormuz has heightened fears of a prolonged energy supply shock. While bullion briefly dipped sharply, it recovered slightly as markets weighed geopolitical risks against inflation pressures. Safe haven demand remained muted as investors shifted focus to rising yields and a stronger dollar. Staying with the US dollar now, the US dollar strengthened its early trading as failed US peace talks and a planned blockade of the Strait of Hormuz triggered a risk-off mood in global markets. Major currencies like the euro, pound and Australian dollar weakened against the greenback. Rising geopolitical tensions and a fragile ceasefire have pushed investors towards safe haven assets. Meanwhile, Hungary's currency surged after a major political shift, contrasting broader market caution. Manchester City took full advantage of leaders Arsenal's slip-up with a 3-0 victory at Chelsea to reignite the Premier League title race. City scored 3 times in the second half of Stamford Bridge to cut Arsenal's lead to 6 points. City have a game in hand over Arsenal after the Gunners' shock home defeat by Bournemouth on Saturday. Pep Guardiola's side host Arsenal at the Etihad Stadium on Sunday in a match that is being billed as the Premier League title decider. Mumbai's Wankhede Stadium fell into a rare collective silence on Sunday as the cricketing world paid its last respect to the late music legend Asha Bhosle. Ahead of the Indian Premier League match, players wore black armbands and stood alongside thousands of fans for a minute of silence. Following her passing at the age of 92, the last rites of the legendary singer will be performed at Shivaji Park in Mumbai on Monday afternoon with full state honours. Several celebrities and leaders are expected to arrive to pay their last respect.